Rhoda, Chapter 13, The Shaman Magician Tim, by Timothy Patrick Kimmel, Jr. They hightailed it out of the old tunnel crossing from Near Island to Kodiak, quick as they could, barely noticing how quick their retreat seemed in their excited haste in comparison to the slow, monotonous way forward through long, dark, numbing dullness, tinged with excited mania from acutely overstressed senses. They were exhausted by the time they reached the end of the tunnel system and made camp right outside its entrance, sleeping through the day, which started out rosy and pink, tinged with orange, before turning a deeper blue with scattered cloud cover, barely seen through heavy tree cover. They were recovered enough from their ordeal as the sun started to go down. Tim suggested going back to his place to decide on their next move. That way she could meet the shaman. That was his namesake, and they could recuperate fully. But how can I meet a human? They think we are sewer rats, after all. Tim isn't like a normal human. He understands animals and can even become us somehow without it being invasive. I don't know how to describe it. You'll like Tim, though, I swear. She already did, she thought, pushing aside a growing feeling of attraction to her new friend and confidant. They continued their journey without preamble. They didn't talk all night and picked their way along a rhododendron trail forward towards Tim's family's place, around his namesake, the shaman's. Tim's father's longtime friend and associate, known for fantastic shenanigans and staying up all night. Performing strange rituals and singing songs. It was early morning when they arrived, and they stayed the night right outside the shaman's campsite. He was sound asleep, probably having just gotten so, and snoring loudly while tooting musical refrains, sounding just like a car, and reminding Rhoda of a certain scary Mack truck, only she was too tired to care. They were awoken rudely and early by some police officers, who rudely told the shaman that he wasn't allowed to camp there anymore, and that they would clean up his camp, so he had to clear out. The shaman said, "I'm Native American, and I will camp wherever I want." They threatened him with arrest and said he had to go now, or they were taking him to jail. The shaman said, "You have defiled this place," and it took him a minute to grab his stuff and put some clothes on. The police waited impatiently while Tim cleared out. Rhoda and her Tim decided to clear out too. The shaman belonged to Tim and his family, and now Rhoda as well. He was like communal property, and they felt more comfortable around him than some crazy cops. The shaman came back once after the cops left. All they had taken was his bed and destroyed the rest of his campsite, ruining its spirit and picturesque beauty with their unholy nature. Tim could not bear this to stay there anymore, and taking the tent they left as some form of payment for their unspiritual rape, he took off for greener pastures among the Russian Ridge Trail system, off of the Salif, where the bears are, and rhododendron rats like Rhoda have called home for generations. Tim and Rhoda had followed him back to the camp, and that night, for want of anything better to do, they took off after him when he left Near Island, hauling an insane amount of gear and gadgets no normal man should have been able to carry, and rumbling monstrous ritualistic car noises. Realistically loud and rambunctious. They sounded just like the Mack truck that led to Rhoda's fear of Near Island Bridge drain pipe tunnel crossing that Rhoda Dendron rats had been using instead of the old trade tunnel crossing under the ocean floor from Near Island to Kodiak that had originally been utilized when the first rhododendrons had settled Kodiak generations before, during Rafe's time. Tim told Rhoda about how his dad used to tell him stories of the old tunnel system and dead rats caught during a flood when the water rose so high not even its safety nest could save them. The shaman lugged his heavy load to a spot on Russian Ridge Trail system, only once losing his flip-flops in a cold mud hole, yelling for help while stubbing his toes and laughing. On the way, he lost his glasses and flashlight, and his flashlight was going dead, so hopelessly lost, he stayed the night on a stump under a fallen tree with a blanket over his head for warmth. It was almost spring. Tim and Rhoda stayed with him the whole time, following his stinky good scent, which was kind of smoky and golden, and scurrying to catch up when they could no longer hear his antics. The next day, the shaman set up his tent, only to come back a few days later, verging on nightfall, to find a she-bear angrily ripping it to shreds. It was between two hills on a slight incline, and she looked surprised and chastised that it was him. All the animals knew him and respected him, so it must have smelled like the pigs that gave it to him, as unequal payment for the bed of cocaine they stole. He fired a warning shot, and she scampered away after hearing the big boom of his .45 automatic Beretta. Laughing to himself a little, he put a tarp over the roots of a huge tree that had fallen a little farther down the plateau before night fully set in with its deep, pitch-black darkness. The shaman kept being bothered by bears until he remembered he had promised to help them, and so, taking some horse wormer he bought for himself in case the combatant didn't work. Always worm yourself or your human dog at least once a year, especially if they eat raw. He dumped the horse wormer on some chicken bones and watched a bear getting into it. Independent worm saloon does not show up upon a fecal matter test and can cause gastrointestinal problems from 1 or 2 worms, usually contracted from eating raw codfish or pollock. The bears were extremely grateful that the forgetful shaman had kept his word and even forced him to turn into a bear at night and mate with them before disappearing the rest of the year. Rhoda and Tim moved in with the shaman that winter for warmth and have never once regretted it. Rhoda had missed her sister and immediate family while stuck on your island, and was happy she overcame her fears and made it to her sister's birthday party. The shaman was always bringing people and animals together, and this is really a love story after all. Tim and Rhoda started a huge family, a rat pack, if you will, to keep the shaman Timothy Patrick Kimmel Jr. company forever, a sort of bad company. But what's in a name after all? Our Tim can be so foul, or smoky fallible, if you will. In July 6, 2026, the shaman's dwelling caught on fire, killing Rhoda and Tim, but leaving most of their offspring unharmed as they were away foraging. The shaman did his best to get them to leave, but they were afraid of his yelling. And so stayed in their dwelling, middle-aged by all the kids they had. They cooked up smelling like roast chicken. Tim, the shaman, moved himself and what little he could rescue from the blaze to a fallen tree not far away on the same plateau. His mouth still watering from the memory of fried chicken smell, he discovered his golden brown friends, Rhoda and Tim, huddled together in love and suffocation. Perfectly cooked, he ate them with tears in his eyes, relishing their chicken-like flavor, his heart and spirit full with love, and his appetite sated as well. Rhoda's offspring never left him, and still enjoyed his strange rituals and tastes, as well as his unique cooking ability and his stories, and the divine pancakes he was known to leave around, half-eaten and soaked in butter with maple syrup. Where do bad folks go when they die? They don't go to heaven where the angels fly. They go to a lake of fire and fright. See him again on the 4th of July. Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. The end of Rhoda for now.